The Atlantic walls made up of a line of defences stretching from northern Norway to the frontier with Spain. The defence positions, or strong points, were called Widerstand nests, or WN and a number. Widerstand nest means withstanding nest or resistance point. Some were reinforced and called Stützpunkten, or STP. Sword Beach had 24 WNs along the beach and inland. With Caen being a port and the key town in the area, the beach and estuary were well defended. If you visited Sword Beach, you might not have noticed any bunkers. Many have disappeared. You might have visited certain sites and not realised they had a WN number. WN1 is better known as Merville Battery, and Pegasus Bridge was WN13. The Todd organisation that built the defences had standard plans to facilitate the construction. The most common series was 600. There were many different types. The Merville battery was WN1. It had 4 casemates of 3 different types, R611, R612 and R669. The 100mm guns could fire the whole length of Sword Beach. Lieutenant Colonel Otway had the mission to take them, and that story is told in this video. Now, WN2 was a big emplacement. It went from the road from Merville to Cabourg, right down to the sea. But it's now covered by campsites, and most of it's been obliterated. The only thing that's visible is this ring stand. It's a ring stand for a 50mm cannon. This is in the parking of a restaurant, part of the campsite. The Franceville Merville WN3 is quite a formidable emplacement. It was spread along the beach at Franceville, and from here they could have a good view onto Sword Beach where the landings were going ahead. The anti-tank wall wasn't built straight along the top to make it look less like a defence position. Now this was a Regelbau 643. He had a cupola with 3 openings and a Tobruk. That pipe by the bench was for the periscope. Now we skipped WN4 because it was in Franceville. There was no defence positions and there's nothing to see. At WN5, it would have been right on the coast 80 years ago, but the land's changed, so these bunkers are quite way inland now. This is a Tobruk across the estuary from Ouistreham. This bunker perhaps had a gun on it. It has a Tobruk on the top. Tobruk position on top of the gun emplacement. They would have been busy firing at Sword Beach. See, the ferry is at Ouistreham. The landings were a mile further than that. Here in the middle of WN5 is a redoute or French fort. Not sure from when it dates. See, there's some fine positions next to the entrance. That looks like some concrete built on top of it over there. So it seems to be rounded on the seafront side and flat on the entrance side inland. No doubt built against the English. There's another German position just in front of the redoubt. This is an observation post with a view onto Ouistreham. WN5 is enormous. As soon as you think you've found all the bunkers, you see another one. An R506 casemate for a 4.7mm gun. Now this casemate's been seriously damaged. That bit with the top block on it is completely broken off. Now this would have been right near the beach at the time, so the sea's receded. And there's the other casemate over there. That'd be the entrance up into the Tobruk, which would be vertical at the time. Machine gun here covering the approach. Entrance to hell. Somebody's been having a binge in there. This seems to be a anti-tank wall. Would have been at the top of the beach, just in front of this casemate. So you got a good view over to the Ouistreham, Sword Beach. There are many more of these structures, but they're mostly hidden in this thick undergrowth. So we'll carry on to WN6. A WN6 is quite a small position on the estuary of the Orne at Salinel. There was a 50mm gun here and a Flak. At one time in the 80s, this was a discoteck, not surprisingly called The Bunker. There's a shelter here with Tobruk on the top. It's now made into a viewpoint for overlooking the estuary. That's a nature reserve. You can just see the ferry through the trees in between the canal and the river. Across there is the lighthouse, which is just by the port of Ouistreham, the entrance to the canal. And there's Ouistreham Church. Of course, Pegasus Bridge is further down the canal, which is further over than the river here. Now WN6 held out for some time until the commandos working their way up took it, and then the Germans there pulled out and went towards the Seine. WN7 is on the spit in between the estuary of the Orne and the canal. WN7 had 2 regular bow casemates, had mortar, 7 Tobruk's, 5cm gun ring stand. The only thing that remains is this AR634 with a cupola on the top. From WN7 across the estuary is WN5. Now WN8 was a big strong point. It included 31 bunkers and casemates, including a 6 opening turret bunker, 2 casemates for assault guns, an observation post, group shelters, 3 ammunition bunkers, ring stands or gun pits, I should say, for 6-inch guns, just like at Pointe du Hoc, 4 double opening casemates for 5mm guns, machine guns, a Flak stand, and it was contiguous with WN10. Now at Pointe du Hoc and at Long, they had 100-foot high cliffs to put an observation post on. Here it's very flat, so they built that 5-story bunker with the observation post on the top. Now that can be visited, very interesting visit. Now this gun is a 88mm anti-aircraft gun. They used to have a doodle bug on the roof there, but it's disappeared some years ago. And there's also a Higgins boat that was used in the film Saving Private Ryan. In the middle of this go-kart track, where that mound is, there was a gun platform. In the 80s, I remember you could see the concrete, but they probably filled it over with earth as a safety measure. WN8 stretched from by the ferry port there, because it wasn't a ferry port then, that's the canal, along the beach to pass the casino, which is over there. In the distance you can see the flame on the commando monument, and that's WN10. Now the flag tower is behind those trees. That's still there. See there, there's a stable built onto the side of that bunker over there. See there's a Tobruk on top of this casemate or bunker. Can't see any opening for the gun. There's the ferry leaving. 6 hours to get to England. See the Dragon's Teeth is still here. There are several rows of these. They were to stop tanks and any vehicles coming up the beach, rip open the tracks. They've been left here. Over there we can see the flame monument to the commandos. And just over there, the casino, which had been demolished at the time. See the new casino, and then just past that, the Flak Tower, which is now a panoramic viewpoint for tourists. There was a casino here before the war. The Germans demolished it and just left the foundations, and there was a gun emplacement on it. Now the commandos, the French commandos, landed further up the beach near Hermanville. They went inland. So they came down Rue Pasteur to attack the casino, being fired on by the gun, and from the flak over there. And then a tank came down to assist them, and overcame the resistance of the Germans here. Now, this is all shown pretty well in the longest day, except it was shown, mistake of Cornelius Ryan, it was shown as being the building of the casino, whereas it was just a gun on the foundations, and they filmed it at Pointe because this casino had been built since WN9 was in the town of Wiestram, probably just an assembly point, so no defence positions. WN10 was more or less contiguous with WN8, making it one big defence position. The landing zones were about a mile down there, at Hermanville, Breche. The commandos landed on the eastern flank. They went inland along the road inland following the railway line to attack Wiestram and Rivabella. Now WN8 consisted of this 6-opening cupola on a bunker. There was a casemate for a 75mm gun and 3 Tobruks. You see WN8, WN10 went right down to where the ferry is. This cupola of WN10 has been turned into a monument for the French commandos. There's a statue of Lord Lovat, who commanded the commandos, and of Commandant Kiefer, who commanded the French commandos, and memorial stones for the French commandos killed on D-Day. WN18 was quite a substantial strong point. There was this R612 casemate. There was a ring stand for a 5cm gun, 2 Tobruks, a turret on a U-shaped Tobruk. So there were a 50mm gun and a 75mm gun and a 2-inch gun. And minefields. All that's left is this casemate. Now the British codenamed these strong points along the beach after fish. So this one is called Skate. There would have been a 75mm gun in there, was firing along the beach. Now this casemate was taken out by a tank that got round the back of it, fired in the entrance. It's been incorporated into these houses, or these houses have been built onto it, I should say. WN20 was called Cod. This was pretty substantial as well. There was an R677 casemate, an R626 casemate for a 75mm gun, a 5cm ring stand, an SK for a 3.7cm gun. There was a double opening for a 5cm gun. There were machine gun stands, 4 Tobruks, 2 mortars, and of course an anti-tank ditch, and barbed wire and minefields. WN20 spread across where these houses are. Nothing remains of the defences, but these 2 houses remain. They were there, and they were in famous photo. Now the next strong point was at Lyon-sur-Mer, called Trout, WN21. That's more or less at the headland there. Now the landings went ahead well at La Breche de Hermanville, or the breach of Hermanville. Many photos were taken there. These buildings are still in the same place as they were then. Now the name for the landings on the beaches was Neptune. So this statue represents that. And the only ship sunk by the German Navy on D-Day was the Svenner. This is the memorial to the Svenner, and this is its anchor. Most of Lyon-sur-Mer was covered by Trout, or WN21. There's no vestiges left in the town, but there was a 50mm gun just at the rise on this road in the middle of the town. It knocked out 3 AVRE tanks. Of course, there's some memorials in the town, and then there's this monument, which is the sundial, and there's an AVRE tank next to it. You can see those short cliffs. They're not very high, perhaps 15, 20 foot, but vehicles and tanks couldn't get up there. And there's about 5 miles of that. That's why there was a gap between Sword and Juno. And the commandos were sent to clear out that gap. But as it was, they didn't meet up till the 7th. WN24 is at Luc-sur-Mer. Luc-sur-Mer was taken by the 41 Royal Marine Commando on the 7th of June. The only defence position left is this Tobruk. There is a memorial to the first commando raid into Normandy. That was in 1941. Now the famous Pegasus Bridge was actually WN13. There were 4 machine guns here and a 50mm anti-tank gun. The only thing that remains is the anti-tank gun. Now this anti-tank gun was used by the 6 airborne men to fire on the chateau where there was a machine gun firing at them, and also to knock out a gunboat that came up or down the river from Caen. WN19 was just made up of 2 Tobruks. There's one still here, just north of Colleville, Montgomery, or Colleville as it was then. These Tobruks held up the commandos on their way from Sword Beach to Pegasus Bridge for a bit, and they were dispatched by Churchill tanks coming up. A WN16 was called Morris by the British. It had 4 R669 casemates. The one was under construction. An MG ring stand, 4 VF positions, a water tank, 4 bunkers, and 4 10cm guns. Now all that's left of Morris are 2 casemates. There's this one that's been used as a farm storage. It's in a farm. Then there's a gun platform. Then there's a gun platform here. See, the whole battery's been built over. There's houses all around it, but they've left these 3 vestiges in place. And then down here, there's the other casemate. Now Morris was taken by the Suffolk Regiment. They landed on Sword Beach. They took it without too much difficulty. The radio called on ships to fire on it. Some sources say that the men here shot who weren't German, they shot their German officer so they could surrender. Anyway, the battery was taken, and then they moved up to Hillman, which was a different kettle of fish. Here's the other casemate. He's surrounded by newish houses. See, the gun would be firing out of there. That's been covered over with breeze blocks, firing that way to the beach. Now this is Hillman, which was the headquarters of Colonel Krug, who commanded the gun batteries along this part of the coast. Now this site merits a video on its own, because this was one of the reasons why the British didn't get Caen. This bunker system held up the advance here, and it held out to the 7th. This I think was a garage for trucks, and there's a tow brook here. And here they've got a check hedge hook, and they've made some obstacles that would have been on the beach, these sloping obstacles. In Saving Private Ryan, these are around the wrong way, because the sea is to the lower part. Now if you look at one of these, you think the obstacle is the bit sticking up, but in fact it's the slope. So a boat would be coming this way, and it would ride up on the beam. There'd be mines on there, or even serrated cutting edges, and it would blow up or just get jammed. And then these concrete tetrahedrons open, so you can't hide behind them, but it will stop a tank. Now Hillman is another site you can visit. But any time you can visit the outsides of the bunkers. It's quite a bit to see. And in this season, I think it's on Thursdays and Saturdays, members of the association are present, and the command bunker of Colonel Klug is open to visits. Now visits are free, but the association always appreciates any contributions you can make. Now there were two of these bunkers. This was Colonel Klug's bunker, and then further over you can see a little cupola, a mini one that's just been replaced. That was another bunker, the same as this. And then connected to it was that cupola. Now the original one was made of cast iron. That's a replacement made of concrete. Now Morris was down in the village near the water tower. So the Suffolk Regiment took that and they moved up here to attack Hillman. But this was very well defended, and their radio operator had been killed in that attack. So they couldn't pull in the fire from ships. So this held out to the 7th. As they put pressure on the perimeter, all the men in the strong point were in this bunker before they surrendered on the 7th. So down there's the kitchens, and then a machine gun position. In the ground near these bunkers there was a gun platform, and further over there in the field there's more tow brooks, and there's a reservoir here down this hedge, and that was filled with water coming from the well, which is where those trees are. So from Hillman we can see Rover, which is that farm up there, the objective for Norfolk Regiment. Over that way we can see the red and white chimneys of the cement factory. That's what supplied much of the cement to make bunkers in Normandy. And that was near Hermanville, which was taken by the airborne, and they were attacked on the 6th by self-propelled guns. And then behind those woods over there, there's the canal and Pegasus Bridge. When the bridge opens, you can see the top of the road sticking up behind the trees.